Why did Trayvon's killing seem to galvanize movements like Black Lives Matter? Because Black Lives Matter was already around. There had already been events like in Ferguson and then Eric Brown. Why did Trayvon's killing seem to do more?
I think when we think about these movements, and I think there's so much complacency in just history, and I know we're going to get to this conversation eventually, but we tend to displace history as a historical past, as a distance.
Okay.
And the fact is, Trayvon Martin was killed in 2012, and we tend to forget, just as it was mentioned earlier, that we psychologically and historically in the legacy of slavery, it was the job of white people to report Black people. Like, we were not meant to be walking around existing without freedom papers. And the fact is that surveillance of a Black individual is still prevalent today. I think we view our society as a post-civil rights, post-racial society,
Mm-hmm.
and we like to believe in the idea of color blindness. Um, but color does not negate fear. Color does not negate action and criminality that's attached. And so I think Trayvon Martin, compared to some of the other killings in the past,
Mm-hmm.
Rodney King, Oscar Grant, we have people between that period that were killed. The fact is, this was a neighbor. This is just somebody in the neighborhood who had the right to kill, and had and by the criminal justice system had no had did not break any laws, um, did not do anything wrong in terms of assaulting this young man for just walking home. And I think that's, especially to Black men,
Mm-hmm.
that is, how do you live in a world like that? How do you live and exist in a world where you can't even walk to the store? Definitely galvanizing the idea of the media tropes that came out of this. You had people calling him a thug, people talking about toxicology reports, people
Yeah.
talking about all the mugshots and images.
Well, that's
Just
interesting. I was going to ask you about that next because no, I really want you to continue with this because I was wanting to quickly hold a mirror up to
Yeah.
myself and my profession. Was the
Well,
media? Would you say the media was helpful
no,
or
I don't
not
think
helpful?
it was not helpful in the fact that we quickly jumped on a 17-year-old who was walking home to
Mhm.
to say that he was immediately doing something wrong, that he was a thug, that any person who's attacked is going to fight back.
Yeah.
And even if they're not going to fight back, that doesn't mean you kill them, and I think, to the media standpoint, we quickly saw magazines and Black media. That's why hashtag Black Lives Matter was so important. But at the same time, Ebony magazine did the whole covers around "We Are Trayvon" and had celebrities like Spike Lee and Boris Cujo featuring these families. We had the hoodie march, and probably the biggest thing that really made people kind of stand up and listen in terms of media is when President Barack Obama had that press
Yeah.
conference. And he
Yeah.
said, "I could have been Trayvon." And I
Right.
think for people who could never understand racism, when you have your president saying, "What you say about that Black boy is the same way people perceive me," and
Right.
that speaks to a lot of the conversations in terms of how we view race.
Yeah.
Because we tend to like to put Black people in boxes, very much as we talked a little bit earlier, that you need to be a good Black person, you need to be a good, honorable Black person. But quickly we see and we saw that over and over again, that is not the case. The phrase "the unarmed Black man" has been criminalized. It's been used, we use it journalistically correct. And I talk about this with my students, but it also imposes the fact that a Black person has to be unarmed in
Mm-hmm.
order to be seen as innocent. has to be seen. There has to be some justification for us killing unarmed Black men, but Black people in general shouldn't have to justify their existence or have an alibi to why they walk around every day and exist. They don't have, it's a sad fact that technology became a huge aspect, but if we didn't have mobile phones and we didn't have technology, people would still believe that our killings are not,
right,
not being called for justice.